Event Horizon is not exactly Oscar bait. You won't find any hidden meanings, heartwarming messages about life, or, honestly, any great special effects. It's a guilty pleasure movie. The story begins with Weir, played by Alan Grant, having a nightmare jump scare about what will later be known as the ship Event Horizon, and one of its crew members horribly disfigured and screaming. This is called foreshadowing. The Event Horizon is a ship well known for going out of control and exploding while in deep space, becoming the worst space disaster on record. Or at least that's the official story. If you haven't heard of the term Event Horizon before, it's the point of a black hole at which anything in it can no longer escape. In other words, the black part of a black hole. As it turns out, the ship was actually an experimental faster-than-light ship designed by creating a black hole and instantly appearing at the destination. All it did was vanish, and they never heard back from it. Years later, the search and rescue ship Lewis and Clark has a top-secret mission to investigate and possibly save anyone on board. After a chaotic signal is found from the Event Horizon, one of the crew members understands Latin and is able to make out some of the message.
Okay. You hear that? Sounds like Liberate me something. I don't know. Can't make out the rest.
Liberate me.
Save me.
Everyone gets in the magic sleep chambers, and Weir has another nightmare, this time about his wife.
I'm so cold.
She's in the pilot's seat, and she's naked and without eyes when he's grabbed from behind.
I'm waiting.
He screams, and it's cheesy. If you didn't believe or watch my review for Alien, this checks almost all the boxes for a direct inspiration. The Lewis and Clark docks on the Event Horizon, and they bring the most common sense boarding party. The captain, no medic, and not the guy who designed the original ship, and would warn this idiot not to stick his hand in the engine that probably caused the whole mess in the first place. Astronauts, am I right? This causes him to be sucked into the engine, and an explosion makes both ships take massive damage with a hull breach on the Lewis and Clark.
We must have starboard buckle and the hull speed break! The safety trigger failed!
Do we have time for a well?
No, sir! We've got about 280 litres of gas left, sir! And then we've got nothing! The oxygen tanks, they failed, they're broken! Sir, we are fucking dead!
This is when things go from wonderfully creepy with frozen, disfigured corpses and stuff on the walls to haunted and out of control. Dr. Weir looks at the gravity drive with what I call the eyes of madness. You can tell he's not happy that it gets sealed off. Peters, the medic, hears some odd sounds and calls the others on the radio before going to look around, and eventually sees a tent. I think this is one of the best build-ups in the movie, because as she slowly approaches, she sees a hand reach out and scratch the side. It's a very distinctive sound, but maybe not recognizable if you're in the middle of space where there shouldn't be one, or an occupant. After opening the tent, she sees her own son, who greets her, but she sees that his legs are severely messed up. Good thing she brought that bone saw! The other Dr. DJ grabs her shoulder, and she comes back to her senses, albeit somewhat confused. Meanwhile, the bridge group watches the video recovered from the ship's computers. The Event Horizon celebrates their awesomeness, and the captain says something in Latin before starting the gravity drive, and it gets kinda messed up in more the ways than one.
Hail and farewell.
This is about the time when everyone on the ship starts going out of control. Justin, the genius technician who stuck his hand in the black goo of the gravity drive, wakes up and gives a very informative warning.
The dark.
The power shuts down, and everyone starts to see hallucinations about events from their past. Weir, while replacing a broken part of the totally not an air duct of the gravity drive, sees his eyeless wife again, Peter's son from earlier. Captain Miller sees a flaming man who turns out to be a former comrade of his, who he abandoned to die, something only he knew about. While the hallucinations are mostly just scary for the person in question, they are either real, which Weir either lies about and says he didn't hear anything with Miller, or they are very intense, with Miller feeling heat from the fire. In either case, everybody's on edge, even the people who haven't been having hallucinations. And the general consensus is that the event horizon is not somewhere anyone wants to be.
Anything unusual at all?
No, I haven't seen anything, and I don't need to see anything, sir, but I can tell you. This ship is fucked.
Peters gives her idea about what's going on to Miller. As the ship went through the wormhole, the ship is somehow brought to life, and the hallucinations are a sort of self-defense mechanism. Psychic white blood cells in the air, especially when astronauts start poking at the heart of the ship. Speaking of which, Justin, who comes out of his catatonic state to try to throw himself out of the airlock, gives some less cryptic details about what's happening.
Did you hear it?
Keep him talking.
Yes. Yes, I heard it. Do you know what it is?
It shows you things. Horrible things.
What does?
The dark inside me from the other place. I won't go back there. I won't.
No, baby bear. Come on, open the door.
Fortunately, he's saved by Captain Miller, who is confirmed awesome. Meanwhile, Weir has been sitting in the captain's chair, looking like he's in control of everything that's going on. It kind of goes back and forth whether he's a crazed villain or a technician who doesn't know what's wrong, and I'm not sure whether it's a Jekyll and Hyde kind of thing or just bad writing. After another hallucination, Miller talks to DJ, who admits that he realized he made a translation error with the signal that was received. Instead of save us, it's save yourselves from hell. Yes, the ship opened a gateway to hell, or something roughly equivalent, because reasons. This is a movie, not the Discovery Channel, so whatever. The ladies on the bridge manage to recover the original ship's log, and everyone gathers around to watch. Let's just say it's not pretty, and it explains how everyone died. Time to get off the event horizon.
We're leaving.
Of course, there's one person who doesn't want to leave.
You just get your gear and get back on the Lewis and Clark, Doctor, or you'll find yourself walking home.
I am home.
After this point, the ship's hauntings become aggressive rather than just scary. Peters is taking out some kind of equipment near the drive when she thinks she sees her son. Then she gets the crazy eyes. For all the faults and mediocrity about the movie, the eye themes are really good. She chases after her son, who leads her to fall to her demise. Next, Weir takes some time out of his warship to grieve for his Peters.
Oh no, Peters.
Before going full crazy. He's fully engrossed in his hallucinations, and once again his wife is there when she does some bad stuff that explains why he's so obsessed with her. This causes him to remove his eyes because who needs them anyway? Next, he sets up some of the self-destruct bombs in the Lewis and Clark, which blows up in Smith's face and sets Cooper flying into the void. Being shot out of the airlock is terrifying, but at least Justin had the entire crew trying to save him. Cooper is basically on his own, floating in open space. It's one of those nightmare scenarios that you never want to experience. Weir also takes out DJ as gruesomely as possible and goes to the bridge to take control. Weir and Miller fight, but he manages to start a 10-minute countdown for the gravity drive, which will take the ship wherever the hell it went before.
You wanted to know where the ship has been. So now you'll find out.
Weir is the only one that wants that to happen, and Cooper manages to use most of the air left in his suit to jet over to the bridge window. Weir must be terrible at his job because he shoots at the window, causing the bridge to decompress, and Weir flies right out. Another one of those space-specific fears. while the others grab onto something and manage to seal off the bridge door, and Cooper heads to the airlock. The new plan: before the gravity drive can activate, separate the front section of the ship, the part without the gravity drive, and use the stasis chambers until someone comes to rescue them, and self-destruct the rest of the ship, including the gravity drive. Everyone gets ready in the front section as Miller goes into the back to get the self-destruct ready. However, he is confronted by the manifestation of his flaming subordinate, who forces him into the drive room, and Miller confronts what he knows must be a hallucination. As it turns out, Weir seems to be immortal as long as the ship is intact, albeit he's not as pretty as before.
The ship brought me back. I told you she won't let me leave. She won't let anyone leave. Did you really think you could destroy this ship? She's defied space and time. She's been to a place you couldn't possibly imagine.
Miller sacrifices himself with the self-destruct, and the couple people still left on the bridge get a happy ending. Or do they? Yeah, it's pretty much the same fake-out jump scare as the beginning of the movie. But in reality, they get a happy ending, I guess?
Calm down,
All right, breathe deeply.
Stark,
Breathe deeply.
it's the rescue
I need a
team.
sedative here now.
I got you, Stark. I got you.
It's okay.
This wasn't really a review so much as it is a summary with me saying, and then that part was scary a few times. It's kind of weird. This isn't that great of a movie, but it's got this guilty pleasure thing going. At least it breaks the mold in some ways, or at least it feels like it. Like I said earlier, it's half the plot of Alien point by point. Half Alien, half The Shining. Anyway, if you want an actual review, I've got a whole playlist of horror movie reviews, and 3 of those are from earlier this month. With this review, Horror Month is over for this year, but I've got great videos coming up, and if you want to see more, subscribe to see those. Give this video a like and a share, and I'll see you next time.